Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Before I begin today, a big thank you to Bjorn for the virtual gift voucher. I hope you see this, mates, as I'm only just clearing out the inbox. But a huge thank you for the support, it is truly appreciated, thank you. Now on to today. And today we're discussing the ongoing Necron narrative and the fate of Imotekh the Stormlord. I don't think we really need a spoiler warning for today, so let's waste no time and just jump straight in. Now, over the past few months, I've very much enjoyed following the unfolding Necron narrative with the Necrons and the Silent King in the White Dwarf magazine, and it's something we've been regularly discussing on the channel. Through the events of the Flashpoint Nephilim, we've been given some pretty interesting lore updates on how the Silent King has begun to act, and just what exactly he's been up to. Now, you can go back and rewatch those other discussions for a bit more detail, but to summarise, through the Imperium's continued fightback, the Silent King has been forced to take matters into his own hands. His grand plan of establishing matrices across the galaxy is too important to risk, and so he is now front and centre, leading and coordinating his forces across the galaxy. And over recent months we've been given some intriguing insights into not only the Silent King's formidable power, coordinating multiple campaigns across the galaxy simultaneously, whilst not to mention rocking across the galaxy in a vessel so vast it blocks out the stars, but also how, despite this, he's still having to deal with meddlesome Necron politics. It's become clear Sarek has begun to close his fist upon the rest of his race. The other dynasties, slowly but surely, have begun to bend the knee in force to their returned ruler. It hasn't been maybe as smooth as he would like, but as of the latest update this month, he now has influence upon virtually all of the dynasties. Now, while undoubtedly the core of this power, and maybe even most of it, extends his influence to out-and-out rule or domination, there still remains some tied to the Silent King only through that famous Pharaon politicking. Favours, threats, and bribes. You name it, the Pharaons will do it. Even still within their immortal afterlife, you can take the life out the Necrontyr, but you can never take their lust for power. Regardless though, Sarek's rule is almost absolute, at least on the face of it, or as his propaganda would tell you. And that does make sense considering Guilliman has begun to take notice of the renewed Necron offensive, teasing, as we saw a month ago, a possible encounter between the two. If Guilliman and the Silent King were ever going to go toe-to-toe, Sarek would and should do it as the master of his race, the true ruler of the galaxy, his galaxy, the Infinite Empire. However, still, with all the references to virtually all the dynasties now under his sway, with all the more characters mentioned within Sarek's campaigns, there remains one name, still curiously absent, that of Imotekh the Stormlord. I've been very vocal on my love of Imotekh over the recent years, how I love the storyline of him being opposed to the returned Silent King, the fault of a Necron civil war of sorts, as Sarek finds his attempts to resume control stymied by this new power amongst his people, The one Pharaoh who, no matter what he tries, just simply won't bend the knee. I really hope one day we'll see it flushed out into a proper storyline within a novel, finding out just what Imotekh's been thinking and been up to. Perhaps how there's been a bit of a cold war of sorts behind the scenes. Even better if it dropped with a new Imotekh model. Unashamedly for me to add to my Necrons, I'm not gonna lie. And I'll be honest, the continued absence of Imotekh within the Necron narrative does make me hopeful that maybe this is the way it's going to go. However, I thought it would be fun to have a little updated debate on the Stormlord's future. Just where should it go? Should he continue the resistance? Should we perhaps see him fall to the almighty Silent King? Or should we see some form of negotiation? Should Necron politicking prevail? Well, let's begin with the first. Imotekh should fight. Now this for me would probably be the most fun avenue, and undoubtedly the most appealing. The Sortek dynasty was the most powerful before the Silent King's return. Imotekh single-handedly dragged the dynasty out of the gutter. He carved an entire empire across the stars. So powerful did the dynasty become that to the Imperium they were the face of the Necrons across the galaxy. The grim silver robotic skeletons marching to war. Sarek's own dynasty by comparison at first perhaps would have struggled to match Imotekh's power. However, since then, as we have seen through this ongoing narrative, he has most likely had the time to awaken more of his own tomb worlds. He also clearly has been busy amassing more loyalty from the other dynasties. It appears to have reached the point now you'd assume he has more manpower than Imotekh. Now that manpower is clearly tied up in vital campaigns, but still the argument could most definitely be made. So for all Imotekh's power, he could well be the underdog now in this conflict. Personally, I love this aspect. Imotekh may be rushing to take the fight to smaller dynasties, those may be allied with Sarek, or perhaps those officially yet to. Imotekh busy claiming the power and territory before Sarek can get his hands on it. That's what leads me to say a cold war of sorts. A battle of power and territory without having that face-to-face conflict. For me, I think at this point that is Imotekh's best option. To use the power he has to continue to grow. To amass more of it. Considering the power Sarek has, it feels like Imotekh would struggle to contend with him face to face. However, on the other hand, maybe Imotekh has such power beneath him, Sarek in his own right would have to expend too much of his own forces to defeat him. That in doing so it would cripple the Necrons for far too long in relation to the other races, such as the Imperium or Chaos. As such, maybe Imotekh's fight and resistance is actually a bigger problem than we've realised, which is why it appears for the most part, Sarek has been content to work around him. Every world Imotekh claims is a further headache Sarek could do without, and it would definitely leave room for some interesting lore development avenues. Again, obviously this is by far my preferred route, and I think it does add some exciting elements to the Necron faction. Now, what about the argument that Imotekh should fall? This of course could perhaps be an eventual development of that continued resistance. Or quite simply, it could be what happens next. That to truly have the returned Silent King seen as that galaxy-level threat he needs to be, well then honestly he should have an uncontested domination over his own race. What better stamp of approval? What bigger statement to the rest of the pharaons and dynasties than by having Sarek demolish his one true opponent? He appears to have amassed about as much power as he's ever going to get, without dealing with the Imotekh dynasty. Adding that sheer power to his own forces immediately puts Sarek as an Imperium ending level threat, if he wasn't there already. And maybe that's where he needs to be. Maybe it's the inevitable conclusion of Imotech's resistance, for can he truly hope to defeat the Silent King? Can Imotekh really place himself atop of that Triarch? Maybe, honestly, the answer should be no. Now, Imotech's death could be kept mysterious, leaving scope for a future return. Maybe he could be resurrected with a strange new, undoubted loyalty to the Silent King, which would certainly fit many of the dubious rumours and actions of Sarek so far, keeping Imotekh on the tabletop, but furthering Sarek's ascendancy. Admittedly, it may not be the best end for Imotech's character, but maybe it would be the most logical one. Now, of course there is another solution to the Imotekh conflict, and that is our third option, diplomacy. Probably the one most suited to the nature of the Necron tier pharaons. Simple politics. Sarek, in true Godfather style, could make Imotekh an offer he simply couldn't refuse. Now, what could that be? Well, I don't really know. A place on the Triarch, promises to let him rule his dynasty as he sees fit. Honestly, I'm not sure that would be enough for the personality that Imotekh is. You want to talk about arrogance with the Necrons? Well, Imotekh takes it to a whole nother level. Sarek would have to throw in a bunch of other dynasties' territories at least. And that's something technically a Silent King shouldn't be doing. Officially, of course. Turning a blind eye, however, well, that's done on the daily. This would probably be the easiest outcome and resolution to the Imotekh War, enabling Sarek to take that true ascendancy to galaxy threat level, whilst having a unified Imotekh beneath him, with a little wink-wink suggestion that Imotech's only playing along to get what he wants, that Sarek's comeuppance is only a matter of time. Like I said, I'm just not sure what Imotekh the Stormlord could settle for. He sees himself as the rightful ruler to the new Necron Empire, that Sarek is the man responsible for the whole mess in the first place, which he is. The offer to get a beyond supremely arrogant Imotekh to bend the knee, at least publicly, would have to be astronomical. And even then I don't think he'd buy it. I just can't think for the life of me what that offer could be. However, one way or another, Imotekh can't stay on the sidelines forever. His name will not be curiously absent forever. We will eventually see just what he's been up to. Is he waging a war within the shadows against the Silent King? Is he causing bigger headaches than maybe we thought he would? Will he meet his end through his resistance? Or will Sarek someway be forced to buy his loyalty? With Imotekh still curiously absent from the Necron narrative, just what do you think the Stormlord is up to? Is he continuing his resistance against the Silent King? Do you think instead that maybe Sarek should just be seen to put an end to this incompetent resistance? That he is the one true Silent King after all, and his power should be absolute? Or maybe in true Necron style, should we see some offer placed on the table? And if there is one, just what kind of offer do you feel Imotekh would settle for? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. With that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.